in late January 2013. A young woman had been reported missing, last seen at the infamous Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. The hotel had a dark history, a place known for its brushes with violence and death. I'd heard stories, but none like this. Her name was Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old Canadian tourist who had traveled alone to LA. She had been staying at the Cecil for a few days before vanishing without a trace. Her parents, frantic, had called the LAPD when they hadn't heard from her, and now it was my job to find her. The Cecil wasn't a welcoming place. It was old, run down, with a history of housing both tourists and long-term tenants, many of them transient or struggling. But that wasn't what struck me. What hit hard was the building's eerie silence, as if it was hiding secrets in every shadow. Elisa had been staying on the 5th floor in a shared room. Her roommates told me she had been acting strangely, paranoid, they said, claiming someone was following her. A quick look at her belongings didn't reveal much, just clothes, a few books, and her laptop. No signs of a struggle, no notes, no clues. I checked the hotel's surveillance cameras. That's when I saw something that would haunt me. The footage was from the elevator. Elisa had stepped in, alone, wearing a red hoodie. Her behavior was odd. She pressed multiple buttons, but the doors didn't close. She stepped in and out of the elevator, glancing frantically down the hallway as if someone was there, but the camera didn't show anyone else. She waved her arms erratically, ducked into corners, then disappeared into the hallway, leaving the elevator behind. That was the last time anyone saw her. What was she running from? We scoured the hotel, every floor, every room, every dark corner. I interviewed guests, staff, long-term residents. No one had seen her leave. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Days passed, and then weeks. The pressure mounted. Elisa's face was plastered all over the news. Her parents made emotional pleas, but there was nothing. No leads, no answers. Then, nearly 3 weeks after her disappearance, the complaints started. Guests at the Cecil Hotel were reporting problems with the water. It had a strange taste, they said, and the pressure was weak. Some even said the water ran black for a few moments before clearing. The maintenance crew was sent to investigate the hotel's water tanks on the rooftop, which were only accessible via a locked door and an alarmed fire escape. That's when they found her. Elisa's body was floating in one of the water tanks, naked, her clothes drifting beside her in the murky water. She had been there for days, decomposing in the very water the guests had been using to drink, bathe, and brush their teeth. I arrived at the scene, my heart heavy with dread. The rooftop was cold, the tanks large and difficult to access. The questions flooded my mind. How had she gotten up here? The door to the roof was locked, the alarms hadn't gone off, and even if she had somehow made it past those barriers, how could she have lifted the heavy metal lid of the water tank on her own? The lid, which now lay open, had been found closed when the workers discovered her. As we pulled her body from the tank, the horror of it all sank in. But the nightmare was only beginning. The autopsy revealed no signs of trauma, no evidence of drugs or alcohol in her system. There was no foul play, at least none that we could prove. Officially, her death was ruled an accidental drowning. But that didn't sit right with me. Elisa's behavior in the elevator footage, her paranoia, the fact that she somehow ended up in a locked water tank, it all pointed to something darker, something unseen. Was she running from someone or something? Had her mind fractured? Or was there another force at play within the walls of that cursed hotel? The hotel itself had a long history of death and despair. Serial killers, like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, had once called the Cecil home. There had been self-unalive murders, overdoses, a never-ending stream of violence. It was as if the building absorbed the darkness, feeding off it, and I couldn't help but wonder if Elisa had been caught in its grip. The twist, despite all the investigation, despite the chilling footage and her tragic death, we never truly figured out what had happened to Elisa Lam. Theories ranged from mental illness, her family later confirmed she had bipolar disorder, to something more sinister, something supernatural, perhaps tied to the dark history of the hotel. I couldn't shake the feeling that the Cecil itself was a player in this mystery, an entity that watched and waited, swallowing those who dared to step inside its walls.